Welcome back in, builders. This week we're taking a look at Andramania Dog Republic. Andramania is a republic of Calithri, civilized and culturally advanced Cynocephalians. The Cynocephalian clans of Gog and Magog once served magnificent Ind, and their barking hordes were released upon the enemies of the Prester King. But when the Khans of Tianchi defeated the sacred armies of Ind and killed the Prester King himself, the dominion of Ind was broken, and all the subservient tribes and kingdoms found themselves free from the yoke of magnificent kingdom. The Cynocephalians had become increasingly more civilized under the benevolent rule of the Prester King, and when Ind fell, Cynocephalian magistrates replaced the viceroys of Ind and united the Cynocephalian tribes in a nation of virtue far beyond that of the kingdoms of men. They called themselves the Calithri, and promised never to fall back into barbarism and the gruesome practices of old. Now, most Calithri regard men with disdain as the inferior beings that they are. For national features, we are a race of Cynocephalian dogmen. We prefer a heat scale of +1. Our military is made up of skilled and disciplined infantry and crossbowmen. We also have the conscription ability. For magic, we are good at fire, astral, nature, earth, with a little bit of water and very rarely some blood or death. Mostly we're looking at level 2 in these first 4, so pretty decent for combat magic at least. Our priests are supposedly weak, but this is incorrect. We actually have a recruitable holy 2, so I would say we have standard priests. That is a cap only, but still. For scales and blesses, we have an order limit of +1. We build standard forts of the era. For sites, we have 2. We have the Senate Palace. This allows us to get several of our cap-only units, in addition to producing a fire, earth, nature, and an astral pearl/gems. Pretty decent income here. All paths that we can use, all paths that are pretty good. I'll also note, I'm sure I'll bring this up later, but this is the exact pathing, and we have the exact right paths to easily do remote site searching. You need 2 in, I believe, all of these for remote site searching. So you can quite easily do that, especially if you get a little early site search for a little bit of income bump while you're researching your way through thaumaturgy. So a really nice set of gems on this one. Second, we have the Shrine Serene. This allows us to get our cap-only sacreds and their leader equivalent. We'll look at those here in a moment. Units and sacreds. For units, we actually have probably some of the absolute best scales troops in the game, like hands down. Let's see about that. It's going to come down to the chassis, which is the dog man. I believe all of our units have a secondary attack of a bite, and even our worst militiaman has a 10 attack with 15 slashing damage. That is really nice. The Cynocephalians are generally size 4 and have better than human stats, pretty decently better than human stats. They are also animals. However, these are animals that have magic resistance 10. So yes, you can be targeted with animal spells, but unlike most animals that have between like 4 and 6 magic resistance, we have normal human levels. And even our militia unit here has 10 morale. So pretty darn nice. This is a militia unit. It has a linen cuirass and a leather cap, a spear, and even the spear does 16 piercing damage, which is, I mean, it's not lovely, but that is at least the standard for hitting 16 protection. Would I get militia units? No, not really. Another thing is our units are going to have gluttony. However, by being an animal, you use less supplies than ordinary. So I believe that these two actually end up, what's that, undersize? They end up essentially taking it to almost normal. So this guy eats 50% more than a normal human. I believe humans are just 1. Yeah, it's a little bit higher, but it's not ridiculously higher than a normal human. So this isn't nearly as bad as that may otherwise look. And in fact, that may actually be human standard because we are size 4, not size 3. Bigger sizes eat more naturally. So we're about where we should be. We also have dark vision 50%, which is great. Next up, we have the Calithri City Guard. As far as a city guard unit goes, this isn't terrible. 25 gold, 11 resources, 22 recruitment points, 18 HP with 12 strength and good attack value. That's just great. Stat-wise, we have our standards, plus we have a patrol bonus and a castle defense bonus on these guys. They're wielding a glaive that they are quite good with. 11 attack for a 26 damage slashing or piercing attack is great. And they have the bite attack, which they're quite good with. We'd love to see it. They're armored with a ringmail cuirass and a reinforced leather cap. That is not great. I would consider these guys more of like my true militia unit, aka I need to pump a fort with some units really, really quick to try to defend it. Having that extra castle defense bonus is great. You can see here we have a castle siege defense of 1.3, which is great. Absolutely great. Love to see it. Otherwise, not particularly an interesting unit just because we are so outclassed by our own units. Next up, we have the Kalistrai crossbowmen. This is one of the better crossbowmen slash archer units in the game. Yeah, it's not late age man, who I think still wears that crown, but against most enemy archers or crossbowmen, these guys are amazing. In addition, they actually are good at melee if they get attacked. 2 attacks at 10 and 11, 15 and 18 damage respectively is great. They have a plate cuirass and a legionary helm. So with 18 HP plus 17 protection, they can probably take a bolt or 2 themselves while dishing it out. They also have standard precision. They're not low or anything. And they have dark vision. So even if you go underground, they're not going to be as bad as they might otherwise be. The downside here is these are expensive. 25 gold, 31 resources, 22 recruitment points. These are harder to mass and they're harder to buff because they're size 4. Now, conversely, that also means they're spread out further, so the enemy return fire is spread out a little bit more. So some gives and takes on that. Also should be noted, generically speaking, we have a map move of 14, which is just high enough to sometimes be able to get a double move. Whereas if you have human crossbowmen, they're mostly going to have like 10-ish. So these could be good if you're trying to keep an army at minimum map move 14. Otherwise, though, humans might still be better, especially if you can get the really cheap 7 or 8 resource ones. But that's no dig here. These are really good. I don't know if these are the type of guys that you could make a line of and just have them shoot while you buff them for melee. But you could experiment with that even. It's easy to buff their attack by +2. So you could bit that up. If they're holding still, it's easy to buff their strength, their protection, their armor. There could be some things here for sure. Next up, we have the Kalistrai Footman. This one is unfortunately a little too light in my opinion. 25 gold, 13 resources, 22 recruitment points. Standard traits. In addition, they have Formation Fighter 2, so you're going to be able to get 3 of them into a square because they're size 4. They have a spear that they're really good with. A 12 attack is great, and key 16 piercing damage. These are okay, at least this weapon, as a line troop, and actually a little bit better because in late age, a lot of people have gone to swords, short swords, broadswords, things like that, things that are not length 3. So there's a decent chance that you're going to have a chance to do repels. And at 12 attack, that's not terrible for maybe actually getting one. In addition, they have a second attack, which is great. You're going to be able to get 6 attacks out of a square. Yummy. The downside here, ringmail halberd, reinforced leather cap shield. Not really going to do it here, but in a pinch, you could definitely use these guys. Next one is, ironically enough, probably one of the best just basic spearmen in the game, just because why not? Why shouldn't we have the best troops? 25 gold, 29 resources, 22 recruitment points. Again, that high strength, high attack, high HP. These ones also have Formation Fighter. Very similar to the previous one. I think the bite's a little bit better here. So 16 and 15 on the damage, both of which are a 12 attack. This one, however, is much better armored. A plate cuirass, a legionnaire helmet, and a shield is good. If you are expanding and you're going to hit into crossbows, this is probably my unit of choice despite their price. Having 17 protection plus a shield, they actually can weather crossbow fire decently well. It could be a little bit of a downside for that purposes that they have Formation Fighter, but that also makes up for them actually being good in line combat. So this is a above average for the era line combatant. 17 protection, and they have a weapon that both can repel and can actually hit into that 16, which I kind of consider my gold standard protection for the era. Just nice. Five encumbrance isn't even that bad for what they're wearing. So just good, just straight up good. Next up, we have the Calistri Pikeneer. One of the better pikemen in the game, not that there's that many. 25 gold, 27 resources, 22 recruitment points, 17 protection. They have the same gear as we just looked at, wielding a 21 damage pike that they have a 12 attack with. They are also formation fighters. So overall, these are fine. I mean, most of the time, if a length 3 is going to repel, it's going to repel, and going larger doesn't generally matter. But in the odd chance that it does, this guy could definitely do it. Maybe try to repel lances might even be able to be a thing that you could use them for. Put a couple of these on your flanks to just protect from cavalry flanking, and then they can either attack rear or just kind of curl in on the sides of combat for some extra damage. Again, really interesting, good unit. I don't know how much we use it though, because we still have better units to look at. I will also note, because the pike is a two-handed weapon, if you buff strength, remember you're going to get extra strength from that. You get an extra 25%. So I believe you would end up at 26 damage on this unit. Quite good. Also, their combat speed's a little bit higher than some of our other troops. Next, we have the Calistri Man-at-Arms. This is a very good greatsword unit. 30 gold, 31 resources, 29 recruitment points, even more HP. We're up to 20. And we're up to 14 strength, which is great. Again, I mentioned it earlier, but I want to say it again. Yes, we're animals, but we have 10 magic resistance. We also have 13 morale on this troop. This is exactly what I like to see on a two-handed weapon wielding troop. Some HP, some good strength, some good protection because you're not going to have a shield. His combat speed is actually 12, so it's not terrible. We still maintain that 14 map move. Encumbrance isn't bad. These are not bad at all. Now, the weakness here is obviously crossbows. Like, this is not a unit you want to be taking crossbow fire, but if you're not, a 14 attack, 26 slashing damage greatsword, plus a good bite, and a bite that hits for 16. So this is line troop damage levels. I like this unit quite a bit. Just watch out for those crossbows. That is something that they are not going to like fighting into. Anything else, though? Choppy, going to be quite happy. You only get 2 of them to a square. So once you get your point buffs up and running, perhaps somebody that can do formation fighter might be better because you can buff more of them easier. But in the early game, if you're not worried about the crossbows, strong consideration for this guy. Next up, we have the Calistri Senatorial Guard. This is arguably one of the best recruitable units in the game. If you look and compare these to the late age Pangea Minotaurs that we were so goo-goo over, these are comparable, but maybe even better. One thing is, if you don't want to be trampling things, that's kind of what the Minotaurs tend to end up doing because they're larger than a lot of humans. So even though they have that really nice battle axe, they generally try to trample things instead, which gets them into a lot of trouble. These guys are not going to have that problem. In addition, because they have formation fighter, you can actually have 3 of these in a square. They also have bodyguard, just get that out of the way. 35 gold, 30 resources, 29 recruitment points, gets you a plate cuirass and a legionary helm, a halberd, one of the best halberd units in the game, and a bite, both of which are good attack, 12 and 13, and 28 damage, 17 damage on the bite. That is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And the halberd, 28 damage is, we're getting up to like killing monolith levels of damage. In addition, as a two-handed weapon, again, you can get, I believe, 5 extra damage on that for 33 damage. And it's length 3, so they can get some repels to keep themselves safe. These guys are ridiculous. Cavalry charge, chop them apart. Heavy infantry, repel them and chop them apart. Anything that doesn't require a magic weapon is going to not like fighting these guys at all. Again, now that we have formation fighter, now we can point buff 3 of these guys at a time. Body ethereal would help them not have to worry so much about those crossbows. We can easily cast bark skin. We can kind of get into some of the earth buffing for protection. We can do the armor buffing because they do have 2 good pieces of armor on. Strength buffing, weapons of sharpness. I mean, just absolutely crazy. One of the best troops in the game. If you don't agree with that, tell me what you think is better than this. And you do need to look at it holistically, not just a 1v1, but like a square v square, in my opinion. And I think these guys are going to be quite high on that. Just the fact they have the bite. So we're going to still get a 6 attack density out of a square of these guys is insane. Love them. Next, we have our cap only sacred. These are the Serene one. This is a sacred greatsword unit. 35 gold, 31 resources, 29 recruitment points. Basically about the same stats that we've been seeing on most of our units. Better magic resist than normal, good morale. They're, of course, sacred along with their animal and dark vision traits. They have a great sword that they are really good with, 15 attack with 24 damage and a good bite attack. They have the same plate cuirass and a legionnaire helmet. Generally speaking, are these guys that much better than our other greatsword ones? Not really. For the most part, I think our scales troops are so good that this is more of a utility pick. So whatever it is that you need to counter, if there's a blessing that could help you do it, I think this is a good chassis for it. A lot of things I would consider ethereal or mist form. Just giving these guys magic weapon or something else that can break through things that need magic weapons, I think is a really good cheap bless for these guys. And you generally aren't going to need that year one. So like you could put that on a dormant chassis very cheaply. If I was going to go heavier on the bless here, a few things of note. They would get a lot out of larger. You can already only fit 2 of them per square anyway, so we're not going to lose any density. We'll still have 4 attacks per square. And our strength will go up and our HP will go up decently on that. I believe our attack goes up from that too. So quite good on that one. Good protection, so extra HP will benefit from that. Magic weapon, like I mentioned. Maybe some resistances. We do have a lot of fire that we might be tossing out. So maybe get these guys some fire resistance so they don't get wrecked. We recently had a match with Femini where we were blowing up about as many of our own troops as we were blowing up of the enemy. So yeah, the fire resistance would definitely be helpful there. Or, you know, whatever else you're fighting. Maybe you need poison resistance, whatever would help you counter what you're fighting. We did see, like, let's say you went with a regeneration bless. I mean, they would regen, 3, I believe. Maybe you could get them in regeneration and large if you're just all in on that. Could be pretty ridiculous. Overall, perfectly fine. For a human plus chassis, though, I don't know how deep you go on that. I don't think this is like Hellblessed material particularly, but I do think this is a solid counter choice for your bless. Finally, we have the Howler. This is a weird one. 40 gold, 7 resources, 14 recruitment points, and a whole bunch of different things going on. Do note that these can only be recruited in non-fort highlands and mountains. He has Animal Awe 1. He has Detested. This is the opposite of a standard effect. So if we added one of these guys into a group, that whole group is going to have -1 morale. They have Berserker +2, Wasteland Survival, Mountain Survival. They are Pillagers. They are an animal. They have dark vision. They are undisciplined. They cause 0.4 unrest each, and they have chaos recruitment 5. So in high turmoil areas, they can be much cheaper. Generally speaking, I think we are going to go at least some amount of order on this nation. So I generally don't think you're going to see many of these guys. Perhaps if you're fighting into an enemy, though, and they have turmoil and the situation arises, these guys are pretty good fighters. Broadsword, a hatchet, and a bite, 12, 12, and 13 attack respectively, about 20 damage on each, low protection. So I just don't think, I think our other troops are just so much better. I don't think I'm like super excited here. Like I said, if we were attacking into an enemy and they had, 2 turmoil would be 10 gold less, so that's down to 30. That's at least commiserate with the rest of our armies costs. But yeah, I'm not super in love with this one, if I'm being honest. Interesting flavor there. These are like the uncivilized dogs that are still left. Overall, for the troop lineup, amazing. This guy, I don't know, maybe in very certain situations, but the Sacred is fine. We have this amazing senatorial guard. The greatsword's good. The pike is good. Our standard heavy line infantry is good. Our light line infantry is okay. We have a expensive but good crossbow. Even our cheap city guard are decent for what they want to be doing. And even our militia, not that I would ever use them, is one of the better militia units. These are just really, really good chassis here. Heroes, commanders, and profit. Throughout my testing, I did not seem to get any heroes. I don't know if any have been added. I did see a couple people mention that they hadn't gotten any either. So it appears that Illwinter hasn't got around to that yet, which makes me sad because I do like the flavor of national heroes. For commanders, we have a scout, the Calithri Scout. A little expensive at 55 gold, but you do get a lot out of him. He is stealthy 60, so above normal, has wasteland survival, mountain survival, forest survival, is an animal, has gluttony, and the dark vision. So remember, those survivals also help you move faster through those provinces. And with a map move of 18 plus those, these scouts can actually be pretty zippy. Like just being able to cross, say, a forest with that can be kind of nice just to get where you need to be. Other than that, I mean, as far as scouts go, one of the better fighters. I don't think you really care about that, but you know, maybe you're getting assassinated, so you pile a bunch of scouts on top of your mages, and these guys might actually be able to kill an assassin. Some use maybe there. Next up, we have the Pristri Magistrate. This is a 95 gold, 1 resource, 1 recruitment point. It is a sacred animal, dark vision, has tax collector. Tax collector allows you to get the money from a province that is cut off from tracing a path to your fort. AKA, I'm rampaging through the enemy's lands and he's chasing me with an army, so I wouldn't get any income coming back to myself. Well, you would get the income from the province that he's in at least. He also has a defense organizer. This is what the conscription from the nation description was talking about. This just every turn you get your value of defense organizer as PD added, and it can go up to 19 with this ability. So in 19 turns, well, 18 turns, you get up to 19 PD if you just sat still. They also have reduce unrest. This is a free reduction to unrest that doesn't kill any population or anything like that. It also takes place before the income of the turn, so you get a smidgen more income than you would have otherwise. Overall, I don't actually like these guys. We have a different one that I like a little bit more. They can ferry 50 troops around, although I wouldn't want them necessarily leading the troops. So maybe as just a very cheap troop ferry that also can do some tangential stuff could be something. Or even just throw one into a raid party and get the tax collector for, you know, 50 to 100 extra bucks per turn, perhaps. They're fine. They're whatever. Next, we have the Calistri Commander. This is a good commander, 115 gold, 29 resources, 1 recruitment point. Key thing here, 100 leadership, has our standard traits otherwise. Good stats, including 21 HP. He is in our heavier gear, so 17 protection, which we love to see. Has a broadsword and a bite. Not terrible. If I was going to give him or the next unit we're going to look at anything, a shield would not be bad. These are broadswords, not greatswords, so that is a one-handed weapon. And just having a shield would really kind of insulate him from any lucky crossbow hits, taking him out or maiming him horrifically. Next, we have the Calistri General. This is similar to the Blast guy. He has 2 recruitment points and 178 gold, so price is definitely skipped up. Good morale, great leadership at 150. Otherwise, relatively equipped the same. In fact, I think it's exactly the same, although he's trading a little bit better. Same thing as before. This would be my main army commander. I would use maybe some of those utility leaders or just the cheaper commander to ferry troops around, but these would be the guys I would want to lead just for that extra +2. We are not a low morale nation. I mean, if we pop in here 12, 14, 14, even our cheap guys 13, 10 on our militia, but going up 2 extra basically means it's very unlikely that we're going to rout. And even finding like a fear aura thing, we're going to hang out for a lot longer than other people's might. A 5 fear aura, for example, would only take a lot of our troops down to 10 morale. I mean, there's some armies that start at 10 morale, so quite nice there. Good to see. Again, a shield would not be remiss on him if you were just swimming in gems or just really wanted to make sure that you didn't catch a stray arrow. Next, we have the Calistri Presbyter. This is our priest. It's a priest level 1. It's sacred, standard traits. Has a fist and a bite. 90 gold, 1 resource, 1 recruitment point. Not much to say here. It's a priest level 1. Next, we have the Apprentice Magus. This is 110 gold, 2 resources, 2 recruitment points. comes in at nature 1 with a 100% random of fire, earth, or astral. All of these paths are things that we have on other chassis and better chassis. This is 9 research ability for 88 gold. So right at the efficiency mark, not above, not below. These guys would be all right if you're going for efficiency on your research. They're 2 recruitment points, so they're not particularly fast. They don't have any special recruitment thing, so it's just out of forts that have a lab. That being said, if you had boosters, these guys are efficient for giving like a homunculi booster to. That would get them going quite nicely. I'm trying to think if we have anything else that's easily accessible. Not really for research stuff. So it would mostly be if we were going to go that route. Generally speaking, unless I'm just absolutely broke in the early game and I have to get a mage for 110, I think we have better options. And it's his big brother, the Calistri Magus. 275 gold. So we're more than double the cost, but we about double the research, but it's less efficient. 220 gold per year is inefficient for research. However, this is probably our main battle mage. So I think you want to get these guys because you're going to want magic support. We already have the best or some of the best scales troops. Why not point buff them? Why not? And these guys are pretty good for that. They rock in at Fire 1, Astral 1, Nature 2, and they have a 100% chance to get Fire, Earth, or Astral, and a tiny 10% chance to get some Death and Blood. We do have those unrest reducers, and we are probably going order. So if you could break into blood, especially if you took blood on your pretender, but maybe it could be a thing here. I don't think I would put that too much weight on that, but it could happen. This is pretty decent pathing. The main thing I would say here of note is we can get into communions, and we have good nature. Nature 2 is a perfectly acceptable combat path, and Nature 2 tends to really like to spam web when they go off script, which is not the worst thing ever. We have strong troops that'll likely be able to get out of it. So that's kind of a little bit of a bonus in my book. Yeah, a perfectly fine, usable mage, even early on. Just point buffing some bark skin or some body ethereal, that'll get you going. We'll talk some more about the animal buffs, but we can do the animal buffs pretty nicely with this guy. Just great. Just absolutely great mage. A little pricey. He does have kind of some wide-ish paths, which is kind of raising that price. I kind of wish we didn't have the fire, frankly, but it's fine. Very usable mage, good to go. Probably your main mage recruit for combat purposes. Next, we have the Presbyter Magistrate. This is a cap only. This is our priest level 2, 145 gold, 11 resources, 2 recruitment points. He does come in at old age, has tax collector, defense organizer 2. So now you're getting 2 PD per turn. Also has reduce unrest. The 2 PD thing here is very interesting to me though, because since we can take it up to 19 for free, that means that essentially in 9 turns we would be able to do that. While you're doing that, he could build himself a temple and preach. So I think in an ideal world, you would have these guys kind of marching out just behind your armies or with them doing sermons of courage. And then they stop, they build themselves a temple and they preach it up. While they're preaching it up, they're just raising that defense for free. Quite nice. Generally speaking, you want to take your PD. There's a lot of reasons why you go to different places, but generally you're going to leave it at 1, 6, or 11. Or for me, if it's on a border that's not particularly hostile, 21 is kind of where I like to put it. There's various reasons for that. But this is a good ability, I would say. Is it worth 145 gold, 2 recruitment points out of your capital? I don't know. I like it. I think it's a cool little mechanic, so I use it. Is that worth everything? I'm not certain. If Lemuria is in your game, you're definitely going to appreciate having some priest level 2s. So that could be a thing there to consider. Old age, though, is a little bit of a downside, so just keep that in mind. Next, we have Serene Master. This is our cap-only sacred leader. He's the same as our sacreds, but the leader version, and he is a good leader. He's got 150 leadership. I probably would not take this guy over just a regular leader, though. He's more expensive, and I wouldn't want to put a shield on him necessarily because he's using a greatsword, so I don't think I would get this guy particularly. Maybe him leading a small group of sacreds as like a raid force because he can bless them could be a thing. 17 protection isn't terrible, but that's not, I mean, you're definitely gonna have to give him some gear if you wanted him a thug or something. So I don't know on this guy. He's fine. I definitely think he's usable. We are spoiled for choice on this nation. Magistrate Magus, this is a cap only mage. 370 gold, not slow to recruit. Comes in with Fire 2, Earth 1, Astral 1, 100% chance to get Earth, Astral, or Nature, and a 10% chance to get Fire, Water, Earth, Astral, Nature. Overall, I think the biggest thing I would like to see is getting a Earth 2 out of one of these guys so I can do Gnome Lore site searching. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to Earth search very well. The Earth 2 guy also can kind of help us get into the Earth Boots, Dwarven Hammer, and then we're off and running. With our pathing that we have, we are quite good at making thug gear. So getting a Dwarven Hammer is really, really nice if you can swing it. He also has that tax collector ability. I definitely would not get him for that purposes, but if you happen to be using one, could be a little bit of a bonus. He has 15 research for 145 gold, so he is actually efficient when it comes to that. But unless I wanted the Fire 2 specifically, I think my main battle mage is going to be over on the nature mage here. It's just so much cheaper and not old. Next, we have the Calistrite Senator. This is a Fire 2, Earth 1, Astral 1, Nature 2, Priest 2. Has a 100% chance to get Water, Earth, or Astral, and 110% more chance to get a Fire, Water, Earth, Astral, Nature. Overall, not the most exciting paths. Unless you need something specific from this, I don't think I would go for that. I'm trying to think if there's something specifically at Fire 2, Nature 2 that you just have to have. I can't come up with it in my mind. I know there are a few cross paths for it, but they're not spectacular. If I want to do Nature 2 stuff, this isn't the chassis. If I want to do Fire 2 stuff, I think I would rather go here at 370 rather than 460 and slow to recruit, should be noted. So not huge into this guy. He's not old, or at least probably not old. I guess that is a pretty nice benefit there. 19 research for 186 is efficient, but it's slow to recruit, so definitely not going to be your guy. They're perfectly fine. You probably will get some, especially if you're fishing for something specific that they can get. They're more likely to get water, I think, than anyone else because they have that on their 100%. So maybe you're getting him for some water searching. It's fine. Totally fine. Finally, we have the Howler Champion. Can only be recruited in non-fort highlands and mountains. This is the leader if you're going to use Howlers. That's basically it. He could be interesting as a light thug chassis if you don't have a bless that's going to affect that. Maybe that could be a thing. He does have Corpse Eater, which allows him to eat corpses and gain more HP. I didn't call that out on the Howlers, but they also have that too. I just don't see it. I just don't see that particularly. If you have a super crazy Howler strategy, let me know. Overall, great leaders, very usable combat mages, if a little bit on the pricey side, but we're already probably going heavy scales anyways for our troops, so you should have the money for your mages. I think you're definitely going to be leaning into Nature, Fire, Astral, and Earth. All four of those paths you're going to be quite good at. And because our pathing is very similar on a lot of our mages, if you want to commune up, your communions are expensive but relatively safe. You're not generally going to be off path casting anything that's going to blow up your communion slaves. And if you do, you have good HP on your chassis and you're guaranteed to be able to get nature in. So because you can get nature in, they could do personal regeneration. And that will allow your communion slaves to also have personal regeneration, keeping them relatively unlikely to die. If you enlarge them, that'll give them some more HP too, just to give yourself a little bit more buffer on that. So I definitely think there can be instances where being able to commune up could be really, really handy. Who would I make my prophet? I think you'd probably want to go with a commander, a general, or the Serene Master. I think any of those would be fine. You do have an extra stealthy scout if you are a scout prophet enjoyer, and he's relatively quick, so that could be a thing. We do not have recruitable holy threes, so your prophet is going to be pretty important for your nation, so just keep that in mind. National spells and items. As for national items, we have no national items. As for national spells, we have 4. We have at Conjuration 3, Herd of Elephants, Pride of Lions, Ambush of Tigers, Herd of Buffalo. On the bright side, we can natively cast all 3 of those, guaranteed, because they're only nature 2. And we're guaranteed to have nature income. We start with 1. Would I use these? Probably not. We do have Herd of Buffaloes, my favorite non-sacred animal summon, so big thumbs up there. We don't need the lions or tigers. We already have Dark Vision if we want to go below. Maybe elephants could be something if there's just something specific I want to trample. Okay, you could. I would hear you out on that. Generally speaking, though, not super duper excited on that. Just to pull them up briefly. This says we have a Cyclops. I don't think we have a Cyclops. I couldn't find a spell for this. I think this is my mod just being incorrect. If I'm wrong about that, please let me know. We have Buffalo, again, size 6, berserking tramplers. Yum, yum. The elephants, maybe, but I'm just all in on Team Buffalo here. Beyond that, we actually have some really interesting magic that we want to get, even if it's not necessarily national spell level stuff. I think you're mostly going to be looking at early Thaumaturgy or early Alteration as your first go. Both of these have some really interesting things. Alteration, of course, we have the standard earth buffs and nature buffs, both of which are good. Being able to eagle-eyes your mages is really handy. Bark skinning or otherwise protecting them is really handy. At 3, we have Body Ethereal. We do not have very efficient Body Ethereal casters, but when you need it, you need it. So that's really handy there. We could possibly get people who can do Moss Body. Animate Tree, you could do worse than that. You can cast Torpor natively on a lot of our mages. The big one for me, though, is going to be Barkskin. So at 4, Group Barkskin is 3+ size. We can natively cast this with our guys. Very, very handy. Be careful because that does give you fire vulnerability if you're throwing your own fire magic around, but that's not terrible. Also, Swarm can be kind of nice. We have 8 size in a lot of our squares. So, well, I shouldn't say a lot. In any non-formation fighting square, we're going to have 8 size. So you could fit 2 bugs in there to help out on just spreading out the attacks coming in. And then at 5, we have a really cool spell that not many nations can use, Solar Eclipse. We can do this natively, although a little bit of work here. So you'd want to Phoenix Power a Fire 2 mage up to 3, and then it's going to cost you 1 gem. Even before that, you could just spend 2 gems on a Fire 2 mage to be able to cast this. Solar Eclipse is a battlefield darkness spell. It is -3 attack, defense, and precision. Remember, we have 50% dark vision, so we will have -1 to those stats, whereas everyone else will have -3. We already have above average combat stats, and this is going to only widen the gap further. Quite nice. Do note, you do need to have a sun present for this to work. So if you're underground, or if there's like Theft of the Sun, or I think if Utter Dark is up, there's no sun. So you would not be able to cast this spell, but you'd already have darkness, so moot point there. Either way, very, very nice. If you want to just ensure that you're going to win troop battles, very powerful spell here. Also, a way that we can nerf enemy crossbowmen by lowering their precision by 3 and not hurt ours as much. So it can be really, really powerful there. Beyond those, we also get cold resistance out of this line, which can be useful. We also get Iron Skin. This is going to be harder to cast. Earth 2/3s are pretty rare for us. We're more likely to be able to get into the Bark Skin, so Lightning Resist is here also, though. Maws of the Earth, or the smaller versions, we have really good attacks, so that's not as needed as some others, but it's a nice spell that can get people stuck, especially if they're going to struggle to get out of it. Baleful Star, I don't think we can natively get Astral 3s, but maybe you could build some boosters up to that. Can be kind of nice there. Blood Poisoning is also a level 5. Blood Poisoning is a range 30, 100% precision, 15+ magic armor negating poison spell. Very, very nice. Kind of like Frozen Heart. A really nice spell that a lot of our mages can do. Yes, you only hit 1 person, but you're guaranteed to hit, and it's armor negating. That's a pretty nice little combo there. And if you're going up this way anyways, like for a first war, let's say, being able to turn out the lights and then have a 100% precision spell to hit enemies with is nice. We also get Cat Eye Warriors here. which gives us an additional 50% dark vision, taking us up to 100% if you're just really worried about those combat stats. Very, very good stuff here. Beyond that, you're mainly probably going to be looking at just getting larger bark skin. I don't think there's many things above that we care about. Another spell that we can do relatively early. Where are you at? No, you are a nature spell. Nope, you are a fire spell. Nope, you are in conjuration. Let me go back to conjuration. Summon fire ants. Not many nations particularly love these, but fire ants are big bags of HP that do have, I believe they use, is it fire damage or poison damage? One of the two. A non-standard damage type. Can be kind of nice just to have something to draw enemy fire. They're, like I said, big bags of HP. Throw a bark skin on these guys and then let enemy crossbows target them or enemy spellcasters target them rather than our kind of expensive troops. All right, that was my backtrack there. In Evo, we can go fire. Again, be careful if you're going to do bark skin on that for the friendly fire. But nature also has some good stuff. Web is a good spell. Our guys will get out of it quite easily. Nature 2 guys can cast this dirt cheap. Can be really nice. We also have the poison spells. I'm going to specifically call out Breath of the Dragon since we have Nature 2 spammable mages. Good area of effect at 4+, not very expensive, and does 7+ magic, poison, armor negating damage. So if you're for some reason worried about heavily armored enemy troops that you don't think your army can beat, or you just want some mage support, good spell here, I would say. Of course, we could go up to Falling Fires and do that pretty easily too. And with Communions, we could even go up to Gift of Heaven if that's going to be something of interest. Construction, I think we are looking for Jars of Fire. We are looking for Nature Boosters. We are looking for Thug Gear. We are looking possibly for Homunculi to help our research. So plenty of good little things you can grab out of that. We could, with some work, do some astral boosting a little bit. Could be nice. Earth boots, dwarven hammers, just all the good stuff here. Enchantment, I don't think we particularly go for enchantment. Fire arrows does work on our crossbows, of course, but they're only 2 per square, so they're kind of hard to buff. So that could be a thing. This does give us protection from fire, though, which maybe we would want that. Strength of Giants, while we are plenty strong, generally speaking, we also have lots of two-handers, which benefit extra from that. Ditto with Weapons of Sharpness, just to make our armies even more killy than they were before. There's also things like regen that we could get out of here if you have a good nature caster. Plenty of good stuff, but I don't think this is high priority. What I do think is high priority is Thaumaturgy. Very rare to say that. I feel like maybe I'm just not good at Thaumaturgy, but I feel like this is one of the ones I always look at it longingly and never research it beyond maybe 1 or 2. Of course, this is going to get us our Communions. Perfectly usable there. We could cast 7-Year Fever. I don't know how much I care about diseasing one person, but maybe enemy thugs or super combatants, you can just get them with a disease. Could be kind of funny, I suppose. Battle Fury. Normally, this is a spell I really like, and we can cast it, of course, but we also can do the beast ones. Because we are animals, we actually could get an easier to cast spell for attack +2, morale +2. Very, very nice there. We already have good attack, but this is just going to take us over the top. This will also increase our chances of being able to repel people, which is quite handy. Also, this is the line of remote site searching. Augury is our fire remote. Harspec is our nature one. And Gnome Lore is our earth one. So that's 3 of the 4, astral being the other one that we can easily cast. And we can get all of that by Thaumaturgy 4. That can be quite nice. And we have income in all of those to get us started. So 1 or 2 lucky finds and you're off and running in the gem race. Going higher into Thaumaturgy, I would say 5 is the level to go. Why? Well, we're going to get Ferocity here is a 3+ size attack and morale buff. Quite good. At 5, you get Charm Animal. You get Pack Ferocity. Area effect 20+. 20+ for 1 nature gem of that +2 attack and morale. This is just, it's just such a good buff to be able to buff attack and really, really easily and relatively early at 5. You also can do Ravenous Swarm here, which is anti-undead spell, essentially. Can be kind of nice. It doesn't work great against ethereal undead, unfortunately, so not the greatest thing against Lemuria. Other things of note here, I would say, well, as mentioned, you can maybe get into blood. I just don't see it, but I know people like to do that. So we are a nation that can kind of get there, maybe sort of, especially if your god takes some decent blood. Overall, though, I think it is the solar eclipse and the battle fury that we can get our animals. I think those are two of your very early wants. Being able to swing that so far where the enemy has -3 attack and you have +2, that's a 5 disparity between them. I guess it'd be 4 because we only have dark vision 50%, but still, that's going to massively swing our already amazing troops to be even better than they are. Okay, let's bring all that together. Late age, Andramania is a nation that is one of the best scales nations in the game, and it is probably the best scales nation in late age. The reason I say that is our troops are actually good enough to, generally speaking, be able to expand into our cap circle early and clear out crossbows and heavy cavalry. A lot of other nations are good scales nations once you get your cap circle, but before you do, it's like, oh, I can get 1 heavy cav. Well, how many am I going to need to expand? Like 8? Well, that's going to not be good. Once you get the ball rolling here, or even before you do, we can still get out 5 to 10 decent guys. We could start with some of our cheaper guys if we have to, and they're killing enough to get the ball rolling. As you can see here, this is my recruit in this game. I'm getting all my sacreds. In fact, I could even turn 1 more on. Plus about 10 of the heavy line troops at the moment. What I'm fighting, this is what I want, but you could go into the senatorial guards if you just need to kill everything, or the great sword to kill everything at budget. Just such good troops. In this game here, I am sieging Tianchi and I'm sieging Mikland, and it is turn 23. Just to put that into perspective. I also have a throne already. So absolutely crazy good scales troops here. Also, maybe you'll notice this. I know people get frustrated because I don't tend to do remote site searching. I am remote site searching up a storm in this game. So quite nice here. Love to see it. Just good mages, good troops. We can take scales. We have a sacred that is perfectly fine and a good counter blessed chassis. That's a really handy thing to have. Just excellent. Just really excellent nation all around. Definitely the winner of the end successor lottery. Perhaps someday we'll see the Giants get their own nation and we'll get to see the Orlean get their own nation. But until then, definitely the winner of that crowd. Pretenders and scales. Do remember that we prefer a heat scale of +1 and we have an order scale of +1. For chassis, we don't have the worst choices. Not the greatest either. I would have loved to see a couple more unique ones. We do have one. It is a Divine Consul. It is an 80-point Astral 1. It's fine. I mean, new path cost is only the 10. It does have slightly more HP than a human chassis would. It's fine. We also have the Maharishi at 90. I don't know why you would take him over the Divine Consul in this case. We also have the Great Sage for 30 more points, and he brings in the research bonuses there. We do have Great Enchantress, but we don't have any native glamour, so I don't think that's nearly as interesting as it can be. Going up to Dom 2, we do have Dave the Lion. You know my feelings about Dave. I think he's great. We also have the Mimicarian. I think he's fine too. If you wanted to do one of him, you're looking at something like this. You're going to take the Hardskin Bless. Is that amazing for our sacreds? No, but we're not relying on our sacreds either. His main shtick is he really wants to get Fire Shield up and running. With Hardskin adding 5 protection, that takes us to 23. And then he goes Berserk for 5 more. That takes us to 28. And then he does like a self buff that takes us over 30 protection. He also has Fear and a lot of magic attacks. Plus, with this build, we have the ability to cast Fire Shield. So a perfectly fine expander. Yeah, he has some pop kill on him, but it's late age. You can afford 100 people. It's totally fine. So if you just don't want to use Dave every single game, and he has the benefit of not relying on invulnerability. He'll have actual protection. So quite nice chassis here. I do like him quite a bit, even if he's not one I use a ton. Also, he does have Turmoil 1, but that's countered by our nation giving us Order 1. So we could still go up to Order 2 if you so are inclined. Beyond that, we are going to look at a Hamaderhunu chassis build. Just something I whipped up. I don't know if it's the best thing ever, but just trying to do something different. Also, the Phoenix. I do like Phoenix. This is, generally speaking, going to bring in some air. The air I would mainly want for being able to protect our army from arrows, and maybe later on, Army of Fog would be something we could do as kind of an in-game spell. I don't like the fire arrows here as much, and we do have fire arrows natively if we want them, so I think his value is a bit down. Other ones here, it's kind of how I feel about most of these. Going up to Dom 3, we do have the Netter of Crafts. So if you want to go production 3, which we can use, we have some really high production troops. That could be one available. Also, we have the Netter of Many Names. Her main thing here is new magic paths only cost 20. She also gives us an extra magic scale limit. She's a weird one, though, because she wants to be awake to use her good research and her inspiring researcher, but she also kind of wants to be imprisoned because we kind of are going to take extra magic on her and scales. So I don't know. I've never really found like the right nation for her, but I think there's definitely something to be said about new path cost 20 on a Titan. So just something to think about there. Beyond that, I do know Devi of Strength is something that some people really like. I don't think we need an expander god here, though, so I don't think this is the nation that I would be taking this on. Going up to Dom 4, I'm not super in love with these choices. The Monument, do remember the Monument is unteleportable. We have the Elephant Idol. I think he's way too overpriced. If you want to go the Blood route, we do have the Blood Fountain. I think you're probably going to be looking at making your Blood Fountain be able to summon probably Vampire Lords, so you need to build something along that line. Our doggos would be perfectly fine getting Blood Surge or Enchanted Blood. They'd like both of those blesses, so nothing wrong with that. And we have the Oracle. I would take the Oracle if I wanted to go with a haste buff, a quickness buff. So quickness here, we'd probably take that as dormant. Throw an extra heat on there. Yeah, that is not doing me bad. We need one more point, so we're going to need to break into something. What would that something be for me? I would probably go... I guess I would probably just put it here. Whatever you'd like. So we got one extra scale there. Two extra scales there, actually. We got one here. Perfect. Maybe we could even bring the heat down here and keep that on high income. Something like that, let's say. Or maybe something like that. Either way, this is fine. We don't need our sacreds to be able to expand. Quickness would give every one of our sacred 2 great sword hits and 2 bites per turn. That'd be perfectly acceptable. If you want a quickness, a cheap quickness, this is about as cheap as you can get on a chassis that's perfectly fine with it. Maybe not the most exciting thing ever, but it's perfectly serviceable. Let's take a look at a couple of them that I was fiddling around with. View created. So we have Ptah 2, Return of Hammer. We recently did a Ptah build, so I wasn't too interested in retreading that ground here. His main claim to fame is he's a dormant magic weapon chassis. He has magic weapons and reinvigoration. Just dirt simple for our sacreds. Reinvigoration can help a couple of our sacred mages a little bit. His main thing is just extra scales. So if you just really like these troops and you just want more troops, he can do that. In addition, he has a forge bonus of 2. So give him a Dwarven Hammer and you can be quite happy making some Astral Boosters, some Dwarven Hammers, Black Steel Plate, Earth Boots. Earth Boots, very cheap, would be nice. We have some Earth 1s, but we struggle to get higher than that. So just cheap Earth Boots would be really handy. Even if that's all he really did, that'd be fine. Yeah, he's totally acceptable, totally fine. He does end up with Affliction Resistance if you had to give him gear and take him into combat. And he would also be a good combat caster for things that we're generally not going to be able to do on our normal troops. Temper Army for the armor, maybe Dominate or something on the Astral. This would be perfectly fine. Next up, we have, let's look at Goodest Boy. This is something very similar. I think I like the other build more. We do have 10 magic resistance, but we only have 10 magic resistance as animals. So I don't know if I would want to lower my magic resistance by going magic 2. So this is just a different version of that other bless. Magic weapons and undying in this case. And his thing is, this gives us a little bit of a late game surprise. He can Ether Gate. Ether Gate allows us to summon in Ether Warriors, which are quite strong. We need a lot of Astral Pearls to do that. So I tend to sit on my Astral Pearls. So that gives me a reason to just use them all up and get some really strong fighters out of it. Yeah, it's fine. I don't love this guy, but he's workable. And finally, we have Cowbird Woman, because that is a chassis. She comes in with 2 Buffalo every battle. She is going to bring in magic weapons and Berserk. Now, Berserk can be a little bit of a two-edged sword because we do have some sacred mages that we might want to use, and they're kind of expensive. But giving our greatsword sacreds Berserk really ups their game, kind of guarantees that they can win battles because there's no chance they're running away, gives them some extra protection. Their extra strength is good on a greatsword, and the magic weapon is just the magic weapon utility. While doing that, we still have what I would consider fine scales for this nation. We also have high dominion, so we can get those extra sacreds out. If I was going to do anything here, maybe try to get rid of the heat cold, but yeah. This is also going to open up nature globals, so we could do Mother Oak and Gift of Health. We quite would like Gift of Health. If you have to fight in your own dominion, we have a lot of units who have like 16 to 20 HP. So you might even get plus 2 to 8 HP from Gift of Health within your own borders. That would make your troops even more ridiculous than they already are. In addition, that would allow us to heal off afflictions. Because we have good melee combatants with good protection, they tend to die via stacking afflictions, and that's a way we could clear that out. Being able to do Mother Oak also gives us some Jim possibility, and then we could turn that into whatever else we want to be doing. Yeah, just something different, I suppose. She has awe and flying, and is a flying trampler, which is kind of out there, but it's fine. Not good slots though. This is going to be a army caster, not an army super combatant. But again, big nature things on the field or big astral things on the field can be really nice to be able to do. And she can fly to the front to do it. So that is something. For gear wise, I would definitely consider giving her probably a arrow finned amulet if I could in any way get that out, just to keep her safe from crossbows, because they're going to really like to shoot her. She can wear a full helmet, not just crowns, but only 2 other miscellaneous, unfortunately. So this is mainly just trying to do something different with a chassis I don't normally use that's not like ridiculously overpriced. However, I could probably get this same bless cheaper on one of those cheap chassis, so your mileage may vary on that. In conclusion, Late Age Andramania Dog Republic is a really strong nation that has a ton of fun to play. They have a good mage lineup. They have good scales troops. They have some utility things. They have a utility sacred that's quite nice in his own realm. Just a solid nation all around. And one of the best expanders in Late Age, which is saying something in an age that's kind of annoying to have to expand out into. So big double thumbs up on this one, Illwinter. I think you did really good job on this. Maybe they're even a little overpowered, but if you up the price much more, I don't know if we could afford any troops. So yeah, definitely gonna be a ton of fun to play. If you haven't tried these guys out, you definitely should. They may possibly be the goodest boys. All right, builders, if you enjoyed this one, don't forget to leave a like on the video. That helps me a ton. If you're not a subscriber, I hope I've earned your subscription here with Andramania. And if you'd like to support the channel further, remember you can always leave a super thanks, join me live for a super chat, or consider becoming a Patreon or a member. As either one of those, you can link in your Discord and get access to the file channel, where there are things such as the random island maps for Dominions that you can grab and use, and things from other games. As a member on YouTube, you also get early access to the videos that I'm putting out, Usually that means pre-game videos, but it can mean other things that I'm working on the time. Either way, I really appreciate all the support. Get out there and pet some good boys builders, and I'll see you on stream. Bavel out.